teacher. And there's Tony. Got his little red nose and he's just talking away. And there's Spider-Man behind him. See, they even had Spider-Man back in the 70s. Everybody thinks Spider-Man only just happened recently, but now see right there that Spider-Man was a long time ago. And there's the mummy. Ooh, he's all wrapped up in gauze and stuff. And here comes, I'm not sure who that other little boy is there. And that was Timmy's teacher. I don't remember what her name was. And I don't know who that little boy is either. But let's see here. This must be Timmy's class, and the other class there was Tony's class. So, and that's the Gomez family right there, Mary Gomez and her husband. And that's their kids. And here comes Frankenstein. Frankenstein and the Mummy. And these guys were they were actors from out at Michigan State College, and they came here dressed up like these people, and they did a really good job at it. They were really convincing that, and they had wonderful costumes for that. And here comes Frankenstein again. He's walking with all the little kids around him, and they're all saying, "Oh, hi Frankie, how you doing?" Oh my goodness gracious. And it was so good. He did a wonderful job with portraying Frankenstein there. And now we're back in the classroom, and we're seeing all the other little children and how they're dressed up. And there's Tony way up there by the blackboard. And this is my famous Volkswagen Beetle, the worst car I ever owned. And ask me about it sometime, and I'll tell you. It had more things wrong with it than any other car I ever had. And here's Ellen with Rudy. And Rudy and Ellen are looking over the pumpkins. Rudy was kind of, he had them sergeant stripes on the front of his legs there, and that's how we knew that was Rudy. And he was kind of an independent cat. He wasn't quite as friendly as Flaky was. Flaky would get right up on your lap and play with you, and Rudy, all he wanted to do was do his own thing. Now, this is Timmy and the Pinewood Derby. And we're all sitting here learning how to race and be fair and how to get our ribbons and win trophies and so forth with all our Pinewood cars. And we had some mighty fine Pinewood cars that year. I think we ended up taking either first or I think we took first place in the den and maybe second place in the whole troop. But you can see that Timmy's car, the blue one there, is a pretty fast car. It wins just about every time. There it is, winning in the other lane. Yeah, and here it goes again. The blue car on the right wins. And so, yeah, that was a good car. That was one of the first cars that we built. And after that, we made one for Mom so that she could race in the Den Mothers, and hers won too. And so we were pretty proud of all that. And then later on in life, after we had VCR cameras instead of 8mm camera, we did Danny's slot racers or Pinewood racers. There we are to Flame Lake, and this is one of the first years that we went. Actually, it isn't the very first year because Timmy was in diapers when we went the very first year. But you can see that we're in tents, and we haven't gone. Oh, there's a fly on them. Fly just ran across the lens of the camera. That's about a 39-inch, 38-inch pike that we caught in Flame Lake, and Tim and Tony are showing it off to you there. And if I remember right, I think Tony comes up here and pets it. Yeah, and there's Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike, and he was so proud of that fish too. Uncle Mike's firing up the grill. We're gonna have some Denny Moore stew. Now there's Tony, and Tony's showing you, oh, how wonderful that fish is. Oh, I love it, Dad. I just pet that little baby fish, and then he's gonna do a little finger dance for us, I think. Well, maybe not. And so there's Ellen, and then a couple of fish that she caught. Yeah, and she's got her trusty Timex watch on. Yeah, and she's smiling. Oh, she's telling me not to take that picture. And I said, well, I'll try not to. And right there in the background was our old Clinton Motors. Now this old burned out dump truck cab was more fun for them kids than 10 toys. I'll tell you, they had more fun with that. They crawled all over it. There's Tommy McDermott, and there's Timmy throwing something in the fire. And there's Tammy McDermott, and she's trying to get Ellie to look at the camera. And Ellie doesn't want to look at the camera. She don't want to have her picture taken. So now the kids are all going to get in that old dump truck. And they're going to pretend that they're going for a trip. And there's Tommy looking out the front, and there's Timmy getting on the roof, and Tammy getting on the roof. And if I remember right, Tony gets behind the steering wheel. Look, yep, there's Tony behind the steering wheel. He's going to show you how to make it go. And Tammy's being the windshield wipers with her feet. Yeah, Tony's saying, hey, get them windshield wipers going. Ah, how you doing there, mister? Yeah, and so we're driving down the road we go. Timmy does a little finger dance on the roof. Oh, Ellie's being bashful again. Don't take my picture. And here's our tents. That's what we stayed in all one time. And of course our boats were down there by the water. And there's our dinner table. And this is before we had our adder room. We had an adder room on the front of the tent that was kind of nice. Here we are going back in the wilderness, and this is going over a beaver dam. This is showing you how we would keep the kids in the boat, and then we would shoot the boat up on the dam, and we would get out and stand on the top of the dam, and then we would grab a hold of the gunnels and pull the boat up over the dam. And now we're showing you what Flame Lake looks like. It was really a beautiful lake. Had 3 islands out in the middle. And it had a whole bunch of deadhead logs in the water from when it got logged off in 1949. They had a big forest fire up there in 1949. And they cut all these roads back in there to log this all off. And that's how we get back to some of these lakes as we follow these logging trails. And here we are at a moose lodge, and this is back on Grip Lake, and Ellie's sitting there pointing up at the moose horns, and there's Tammy and Timmy and Tony, and Ann McDermott was sitting there on the end of the bench, and there's the moose horns, and there's Ann again. And now we're driving down through the river, and we're going to show you how we go over this beaver dam. And apparently we caught some fish, and they were kind of proud of. And so we brought them back, and we're taking their pictures before we eat them. And we had a wonderful fish fry. That's Ann McDermott standing there with an orange top on, and that's Mike holding the fish. And Ellen with her blue rain jacket. And now we're showing you some more picture of Flame Lake. and down towards the other end. And there's our old Clinton motors, air-cooled motors that we were so proud of, but it turned out that they weren't tough enough for going back in the wilderness. They let us down a couple of times with shear pins and stuff. Here we are going along I-29, 129, and the highway that goes up to Chapleau, from Sudbury up to Chapleau, Timmins. And that, where the mountain, where the rocks are all like flowing out of the mountain there, we called that mountain puke because we always thought that the mountains were puking their guts out when we would see them stones. And one year Mike stopped with his pickup truck and filled the back of it with them mountain stones and brought them all the way back to Michigan, and he laid up a big old wall in his kitchen. And here's a Bailey Bridge. Every time you would run over a Bailey Bridge, it would rattle. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. And it was because the boards in the bottom of the Bailey Bridge were loose. And it would make a heck of a noise when you'd go over it. And that was the International Bridge. And this is the Mack Bridge. And we're coming up behind a camper there. And there's the grading on the Mack Bridge, and there's the big old cables on the Mack Bridge, and there was a boat, and there's Fort Mackinac, and there's their old 68 Ford pickup truck that took us up there to Canada so many times. That was a wonderful truck. We bought it from Ted Russell. He bought it brand new, and then we bought it from him. Now here we are at the portage. This is where we would stop first, and we would take the boats and unload them and carry everything across, and then we would drag the boats across and put them back in the river, and then we would float up the river back to the cabin. And here we are bringing stuff back to the cabin. This is after we started building the cabin. And you can see that we got mattresses, and we got coolers, and we got, I think there was a Davenport, and that was Ann. She's clearing out some brush. And here we are hauling some lumber. We hauled all this lumber and cement blocks and cement bags and all kinds of stuff back there to build this cabin. And we were back there for 14 days, and it took us that whole time, and we didn't have any power tools. There's French toast on the griddle, and there's Tammy and Tommy McDermott, and we're in our little screen room having breakfast, and that was Mike and myself. And here comes Timmy and I up the river in front of the cabin, and we got a load of lumber. I think we had like 11 sheets of plywood and 24 2x4s each time we would make a trip. And I can't tell you how many pieces of plywood it took to build that whole cabin. But you can see how that boat was running pretty low in the water. It had a pretty good load on. We ended up tipping one of the boats over out in the lake, and we had about an hour and 45-minute swim there, and that was a significant emotional event. And here's Timmy and I. Got a hand drill just to show you that we don't have any power tools. We're having to drill a hole in a board there to get it ready. And this is Steve Poole and Mikey Poole. And Steve and Mike just caught that fish right off the back of the boat there. And Mikey Poole had an accident before they came up, and the doctor wouldn't let him come up there unless he wore that football helmet. And so he had to wear that helmet the whole time they were up there. And that was really something. Here's Timmy and Uncle Mike right off the back of the boats. We had the boats docked right there in front of the cabin, And the pike were so prolific in there that the kids just took a little red and white daredevil and they would flip it out there in the water, and just about every cast they would get a fish. And there was all kinds of action. And so here we are carrying boards up the hill to make the cabin. And it was Ellen there in the foreground, and Kathy Poole, and I think that's Steve Poole up there putting that board down. There's Kathy Poole right there coming down the hill. Here's Tammy McDermott. She's gonna do her act as she wanted to be a movie star when she grows up, and so she would do her little movie star act, and that was kind of cute. Now here is Tony, I believe, and he caught a fish right there, right next to the boat. That just showed you how many fish was in there. And this is Willie. Willie would fly over about once a day and make sure we were okay back there building our cabin. And here we are getting the floor done. We put it up on them cement blocks, and we built the foundation for the floor out of logs that we cut out of that log chute up there at the portage. And then we just put the boards together, and we all kind of eased it up into place, and once we got it all level, we braced it with a 2x4, and somebody went around and pounded the nails into the bottom. And this is how we put the cabin together. The cabin was 10 feet wide and 20 feet long. Wait a minute, it was 30 feet long. It was supposed to be 10 feet wide and 20 feet long, but we made it an extra 10 feet long, and apparently we got away with it. It was only supposed to be 200 square feet, but anyway, there's a handsaw to show you that we are, again, no power tools. And we're going to put the end wall on the house. And we're tipping it up, and we're tipping it up, and we almost lost it. I'm telling you, that thing came back so far there, we almost flipped over on us, but we were strong enough that we got it in place, and it just fit right in there like a glove. And we were so happy when we got that on. And then we put the roof stringers on, and right there they're rolling tar paper out, and that's a homemade ladder that we made out of 2 little trees and a 2x4. And there's our screen room. And this end of the cabin was 2 bedrooms, and the other end was the dining room. And there's Tony's showing you how to fish again. And I'm telling you, that's all the farther they had to throw their little bait to catch a pike. Just that close to the boat, they would catch them. And if you don't believe me, you just keep watching here and you'll see, because pretty soon he gets one on here in just a second. And it's just amazing how many fish were in that water. It was just unbelievable. Well, then they ended up planting walleyes in there.